let's talk about books that are set in hot settings. Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I want to thank you for joining me on the channel Jane Reads. So today I'm going to talk about books that are set in hot settings. Now I'm putting hot in quotation marks because I don't have a lot of hot settings when I think like just hot year round. So the reason I'm talking about hot settings today is my July prompt for my reading challenge for July is a hot setting. I'm regretting putting hot setting. I should have just put a summer setting, but now I know for next year, I know what prompts I'm not really want to do next year, and I've got ideas for other ones that I do want to do. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I think I have 10. I should have counted first. I'm pretty sure I have 10 recommendations for you, and then I have some possibilities of what I could read in July. Okay, so the first one I would say is a hot setting. It is set somewhere in the Middle East. It's been a few years since I read this, so I don't remember exactly where it's set, but it is in the Middle East. So this is the Esther Paradim by Sarah Monzon. This is kind of not a biblical retelling, kind of a contemporary set based on the Esther story. Okay, so it says, what begins as a marriage to put an end to the pressure to marry and to provide protection grows into so much more. I absolutely adored Karim and Hannah. They come from two different cultures, but are committed to the same people, so the clan that they're in, and they're willing to share their lives and work together to overcome the obstacles they face. There is romance, danger, and cultural challenges throughout. Karim's love for Hannah is obvious right from the beginning, and he is willing to accept any backlash from his tribe for his choice of a bride. Hannah believes that Karim only marries her to protect her and her parents. She fights feelings of insecurity throughout, but she is so much stronger than she realizes. She's determined to respect the culture around her and Karim's beliefs, but does not shy away from sharing her beliefs when asked. Both are tested and have to decide what is most important to them. I really loved following their friendship and watching it grow into deeper and a marriage commitment between these two. So Hannah's parents are missionaries at this tribe and Christian missionaries, and Karim is a Muslim leader. And due to obstacles going on, they end up getting married as a marriage of convenience, and we just watch it develop and kind of progress there. I really enjoyed this when I first read it. I read it when it was first released, so I want to say, 2018. And so it is one that I would like to reread maybe next year. I don't think I'll get it done this year, but yes. So that is the first book. Okay, then the second book I have is A Distant Shore by Kingsbury. This one is set mainly in Belize, and then they do travel to the States, and I think it's Texas is the primary state. Not 100% sure on that, but that does not happen for a lot of the book is set in Belize. It does feature kind of around human trafficking and somebody that's stuck in human trafficking. This was the very first Kingsbury book I'd read, and it's very different from her other books prior to this one from what I've been told. So this one says, so she was a child caught in a riptide in the Caribbean Sea, and he was a teenager from the East Coast on vacation with his family. He dove in to save her, and that single terrifying moment changed both their lives forever. Then, 10 years later, Jack is a daring undercover agent with the FBI, and Eliza still lives on that pristine island. She's an untainted princess in a kingdom of darkness and evil, on the brink of forced marriage with a dangerous neighborhood drug lord, a union arranged by her father. So as I mentioned, human trafficking is a central plot of this book, and Eliza is in a horrible situation, but she is determined to escape. I was drawn to both characters, Jack and Eliza, and kind of wanting to see what was going to happen, and I really enjoyed this book. Okay, so now we move to the States, which could be considered a hot setting, or it might not be considered a hot setting depending on the season, right? Okay, so the first two I'm going to mention are both set in Nantucket. They are both set during the summer, so there's your hot setting, and they're both very, like, the first one especially is a beach cover. The second one is a sunset, but still summery hot. Okay, so book number, they're both the same series as well. So the first book is book number 1 of the Nantucket Love Story, If for Any Reason, by Courtney Walsh. So this one, we are following Emily, who has returned to Nantucket kind of lost and unsettled with her life. She reunites unexpectedly with her childhood best friend, Hollis, and he is able to get her to open up like she hasn't to anyone else since she left the island. Hollis's 12-year-old daughter is staying with him for the summer, and he is struggling to connect with her, but she immediately connects with Emily. So we follow these 3 characters and Hollis's family just as they live their lives through the summer, and Emily ends up working at a theater, and so we're following the day-to-day life of that. But Emily is also has a journal from her parents and letters from her mom, and so there is a mix of present day in this one and flashbacks sharing like kind of Emily's parents' love story, how they met and kind of what happened to them, and then letters that Emily's mom has written her. And my favorite really of this book was the family. So Hollis's parents and siblings just make Emily feel part of the family like she was years ago when she hung out with Hollis as a child. And she's just one of the group. And I loved that family aspect. Okay, then the second book is book number 2, Is It Any Wonder, also by Courtney Walsh. And 12 years ago, Cody and Louisa made a pact to reunite on their 30th birthday, no matter what happened in the years in between. So they made this pact when they were 18, I think it was. But a tragic accident happened shortly after they made that pact, and it just upended their lives and pulled them apart. They reconnect in a pretty dramatic way, and we follow them trying to figure out how to move forward. Can they rediscover what was lost? And can forgiveness be found? I loved the way these 2 characters' personalities balance each other out. Cody is a Coast Guard, and Louisa runs an event planning business, but just Cody has kind of shut himself off from everybody, doesn't really want to be in Nantucket, and Louisa just kind of open and accepts everybody and makes them feel. She's very outgoing. And so this one deals with forgiveness and moving forward past the traumatic events of the past and just a reconnection, and I just loved this story. Okay, then we go to Alabama. So I have The Wedding Dress by Rachel Hauck. This is book number 1 of the Wedding series, I think it's called, but I mean you really can read all of them individually. And so this one is set in Birmingham, Alabama, and we are following Charlotte. It is a dual timeline. So Charlotte owns a chic Birmingham bridal boutique. Dressing brides for their big day is her gift and her passion. But with her own wedding day approaching, why can't she find the perfect dress or feel certain that she should marry Tim? Then Charlotte discovers a vintage dress in a battered trunk at an estate sale. It looks brand new, shimmering with pearls and satin, hand-stitched and timeless in design. But where did it come from? Whose was it? Who welded the lock shut and tucked the dog tags in the little satchel? Who left it in the basement? Charlotte's search into the gown's history and its new bride begins as a distraction from her sputtering love life. But it takes on a life of its own as she comes to know the women who had worn the dress. We have Emily from 1912, Mary Grace from 1939, and Hilary from 1968, each with their own story of promise, pain, and destiny, and each with something unique to share. I loved how the mystery of finding where the dress came from and who wore it ended up turning into so much more for Charlotte. There is symbolism of God being the perfect fit for everyone, just like the dress is a perfect fit for the various women with no alterations needed. And so we are following we get to know the story of all four ladies, the three that wore the dress before her, and then we're following Charlotte's story. And I loved that. Okay, also set in Birmingham is Last Light by Terri Blackstock. So I just read this one earlier this month, and we are following the Branning family. Birmingham, Alabama has lost all power. The streets are jammed with cars that won't start. Its airport engulfed in flames from burning planes. All communications, cell phones, computers, even radios are silent. Every home and business is dark. Is it a natural disaster, a terrorist attack, or something far worse? So, besides being set in Birmingham, Alabama, it is set in early summer, and they are complaining about not having air conditioning and complaining about the heat. So that is why I've included in this one. This is just, how do I even say? I was hooked the moment I started this book, and I kept thinking about it even when I wasn't reading it. It just, what was going to happen next? But it's also kind of scary of what happens, kind of how crazy their town goes, their neighborhood. And then when you think, the police have to stop this, but the police can't communicate with anybody. They have to report to the crimes on bikes, bicycles, because they can't use any electric cars or anything. Nothing is working. So now they're trying to figure out how to survive with no power. Kind of back in the old days, how did they survive when they didn't have electric stuff? And so, but the mail's not running, telegrams aren't running, it's like the world shut down. Well, their neighborhood. They don't know how far it goes. And so then people are trying to get out of town, but that's entering a whole new universe, right? What is going on? I was so hooked on the story, and it was just, but it also kind of gave me the creeps a little bit, because it was oh, don't do that, that's not safe. But then it's also well, what else are they supposed to do? I'm glad I wasn't them. I could come to home and turn on my lights and have cold water in my fridge and not have to wash my clothes in the lake. Yeah, so I do plan on continuing this series. There is kind of a mystery going on because there is a murder that happens, and what happens. There was one character in particular that this follows quite a bit, but that I kind of didn't really like. Just her whining just really annoyed me. I understood it, but it also annoyed me. And so then when she makes a really irresponsible decision, it was girl, really? But thankfully, things kind of work out. You still kind of wonder at the end, but at least she's safe. So yes. Okay, let's go to California. So, To the Farthest Shores by Elizabeth Camden. This is the first book that I had read by Elizabeth Camden, and then I have read 3 others since I picked up this one, and I have more on my shelf by her. Okay, so this is a second chance romance. It is a historical fiction, and we are following Jenny and Ryan. It is set in 1904 in San Francisco, and then it opens in the summer, which is why I've included in this one. And then they do travel south, somewhere in California as well, but I don't remember, but it's still California. And so at the very beginning, we learn that Ryan left to go fight in the war and promised Jenny upon his return that they would get married. But a year later, she gets a letter from him saying he is sorry, but he can't fulfill that promise and will not be returning. 5 years later, Jenny has discovered he has returned to California, but that he has a 4-year-old daughter with him. Jenny has so many questions. She is mad and hurt and struggling with her feelings. Ryan is in a very difficult position. He thinks he's protecting Jenny by keeping secrets from her, but Jenny discovers Ryan isn't telling her the whole truth, and he only hurts her more. And then there's another character in this. Jenny is a nurse, and there's another character in this that's fighting a drug addiction, and Jenny is trying to help him kind of overcome that drug addiction, because if she can get him to overcome that drug addiction, it kind of leads to hope for her and Ryan. I was really invested in this story. Okay, then we go to Texas, and we have Karen Witemeyer. So this is The Heart's Charge. This is book 2 of the Hangers Horseman series. I did enjoy the whole series, but this one is definitely my favorite of the series. And so we are following 2 members of the legendary Hangers Horsemen, Mark and Jonah. They arrive in a county to deliver a steed. They never expecting that they would have to help deliver a baby as well. Left with the infant to care for, they head to a nearby fondling home, where Mark encounters the woman he nearly married a decade ago. After failing at love, Catherine has dedicated her life to caring for children, teaming up with Eliza to start Harmony House. Eliza understands the pain of not fitting society's mold, being illegitimate and of mixed ancestry, yet those are the very attributes that lead her to minister to the outcast children. So Jonah intrigues her by defying all her stereotypes of men, but there are secrets behind his eyes, ghosts from wars past and others still being waged. When the horsemen hear of rumors of missing children, they stay to investigate, sticking close to Hannah and Eliza. As they work to uncover the truth, love and danger grow hand in hand until a final sinister scheme threatens to destroy them all. This is definitely, as I said, this is my favorite of the series, and I think it's because we're following 2 romances happening parallel at the same time, and I just loved all 4 characters. Like, there wasn't a favorite couple that I was rooting for. I love them all. So that is one. And then the next one is also a Karen Witemeyer book. So I think all of Karen Witmeyer's are set in Texas. I could be mistaken on that, but I think all of them are. Okay, so the other one is More Than Words Can Say. This is book 2 of the Patchwork Family series, but you really don't have to read them in order. It kind of gives you the background of some of the characters, but you don't have to. Like, I'm planning on rereading this one without rereading book number 1. Okay, so in this one, again, it is historical romance. And how dare the council tell Abigail what she can and cannot do with her bakery? She works hard and is dedicated to her sister, but the threat of losing everything all because she's not married? Abigail comes up with a plan that will enable her to keep her business and provide for her sister, but it does require her to sacrifice some of her dreams. However, she is willing to accept those consequences. Zach is reluctant to help, and to accept Abigail's proposal at first. But thanks to the sisters' meddling, he accepts. Zach was honorable and treated Abigail well and looked out for her sister, just like any brother would. In addition to providing for Zach's physical needs, feeding him, Abigail supported him and helped him deal with scars from his childhood. It doesn't take long for feelings stronger than friendship to develop, but will they act on them and risk the arrangement? So this becomes a marriage of convenience. And just following the story, I loved these characters. Okay, so let's go to the state of Georgia. Got A Sparkle of Silver by Liz Johnson. This is set on a little island in the summer in Georgia, like off the coast of Georgia. So Millie is desperate for funds to provide the care that her grandma Joy needs. Currently working 2 jobs, and it still isn't enough. Something her grandmother says sends her on a quest to find a journal written by her great-grandmother. Will this journal hold family secrets and lead her to a possible treasure? While searching the chateau under the guise of working there, she gets caught by security guard Ben, and he threatens to fire her. She is able to convince him to help her. Ben is also working multiple jobs, and her offer to split the treasure is too tempting to pass up. Together, they set out on a mission to find the possible treasure. What they discover along the way may cause pain, but they also discover grace and forgiveness. So it has been a while since I read this one, but I remember really enjoying it because it is a mix of contemporary, but they're trying to find this journal from the past. And if I remember correctly, there are journal entries that we are reading at one point. But either way, even if they're not the journal entries, it's just the beautiful setting in the chateau and in the summer. Yes. Okay, so those are all the read recommendations that I have for you. Now, ones that are on my possibility list to read in the month of July that will fit this. The first one is More Than Words Can Say. I want to reread this because this is on my rereads bingo board for this year. So I would like to reread this one. So this is kind of probably the highest priority out of these 4 I'm going to mention. But I do have other options. So we have The Sweet Life by Suzanne Woods Fisher. This is set during the summer, I understand, in Cape Cod. So that Cape Cod just makes me think of like a hot setting. Just makes me think summer. And it is a contemporary romance. I don't really know much about it. It just says, welcome to summer on Cape Cod, a place where the sweet life just might be possible. Dawn can't believe she's on a groomless honeymoon on beautiful Cape Cod with her mother. She was supposed to be here with Kevin, the man she loves. Still, Mom was the right choice. Dawn's heart may have been broken, but Marie is in need of mending as well. But Mom, being Mom, creates a mess when, on a whim, she buys a run-down ice cream shop in the town's tightly regulated historic district, with big plans to fix it up. She's never remodeled anything, and she's never even made ice cream. Dawn knows she has to stay and fix this fiasco, but her mother's money pit ice cream shop may have created a chance for happy endings, one Dawn could never have expected. That sounds really interesting. So, okay. Then I have Nantucket. Now, doesn't this give you a summer feel, beach cover? So this is The Things We Knew by Catherine West. I think it's contemporary is what I was going to say. I'm not really sure, actually. Let's find out. When their tragic past begins to resurface, can he help her remember the things she can't? After her mother's death 12 years ago, Lynette watched her close-knit family unravel. One by one, her 4 older siblings left their Nantucket home and never returned. All seemed to blame their father for their mother's death. But nobody will talk about that tragic day, and Lynette's memory only speaks through nightmares. Then Nicholas returns to Nantucket, bringing the past with him. Once Lynette's adolescent crush, Nick knows more about her mother's death than he lets on. The truth could tear apart his own family and destroy his fragile relationship with Lynette, the woman he no longer thinks of as a kid sister. As their father's failing health and financial concerns bring the Carlisle siblings home, secrets surface that will either restore their shattered relationships or separate the siblings forever. But pulling up anchor on the past propels them into a perfect storm, powerful enough to make them question their faith, their willingness to forgive, and the very truth of all the things they thought they knew. Okay, that sounds really interesting. So, okay. And then the last one is In Search of a Prince by Toni Shiloh. This one is set in Africa. Yes, off the coast of Africa. So I would think that's a warm setting, hot setting. So Brielle is fully content teaching at a New York City public school and taking annual summer vacations with her mother to Martha's Vineyard. But everything changes when her mom drops a bombshell. Brielle is really a princess in the island kingdom of, I'm not even going to try to say that, off the coast of Africa. And she must immediately assume her royal position, since the health of her grandfather, the king, is failing. Distraught by all the secrets her mother kept, Brielle is further left spinning when the royal council brings up an old edict that states she must marry before her coronation, or the crown will pass to another. So I have heard Princess Diaries comparison to this, so we'll see. Okay, so those are my 4 possibilities. Not that one. This one. Those are my 4 possibilities that I hope to get onto my TBR for July, at least one of them anyways. And then these are the 8 recommendations I have, plus the 2 that I only have on my Kindle, the Courtney Walsh books. Okay, so these are hot settings that I have. If you plan on joining in on this reading challenge and have a book that you're planning on reading for a hot setting, I would love to know. Or if you immediately think of a book that is set in a hot setting, I'd love to know that as well, because there probably, most likely, is books I have no idea about, because settings isn't really something I think of or know until I really get into a book. So if you have some recommendations, leave them in the comments as well. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope I've encouraged you to pick up some of these books and give them a try. Have a great day. Bye.